Hello guys, in this video we're going to talk about the other data orchestration tools, the other data automation tools, or AI workflow tools, or AI automation tools, or AI orchestration tools. Pretty much there's a bunch of other things out there because the last video I did was about n8n, which is the hottest AI automation tool right now, AI workflow tool, AI orchestration tool. All these things mean the same thing. I'm just going to use AI workflow for now as like the main word. But orchestrator or orchestration is like the original word that kind of came about. Then workflows and like automations kind of came about. But just know workflows, automations, orchestrations means the same thing. So I might say that interchangeably. So pretty much n8n is a no-code tool, right? So anyone can use this without knowing how to program or anything. Granted, if you know how to program, it gives you a little bit of an advantage, but not really that much, especially if you know how to use the tools that are involved. If you know how to use Excel, you'll be fine at using n8n, right? So we have Apache Airflow, we have Dagster, and then we have Prefect. Okay, so these three tools, Prefect is the one that uses the word orchestration. That's like their big selling word. It pretty much is the same thing as n8n. All three of these are the same thing as n8n, but the difference is that you can code these, right? This is like the coding version of n8n. So people that would prefer this most likely are people that want more control over their workflow. They want to add in features. Like let's say n8n, right? It doesn't have something for, let me think, WhatsApp. It does. Never mind. I apologize. Let's say Instagram. Right, there we go. That was one from yesterday. Yeah, Instagram is not attached to this, but Instagram does have API calls you can make to it, right? Instead of waiting on, n8n to add that API, you can just run it yourself without waiting for them to add it, okay? And things of that nature. And also, if you want to do more advanced stuff, so like if you want to use AI models that don't involve LLMs, like at least a simple neural network or a CNN or just a new model that just came out, right? If a model just came out right now, n8n probably can't use that model. They need to make an API for n8n to use it. So if you want to use that brand new model, you can use it via just regular code, most likely, because n8n has to take time to create the connection between their software and then the new AI model that came out, right? And then just to show you even more example, like if I type OpenAI, 1 second, let me see. You'll see like this is all that they offer. So if you want to do anything outside of these things, you can't. You have to wait for n8n to create that link, that ability. But with these three tools, you can code your own, especially if something is available but n8n is not offering it, you can probably access it via code. So this is where the advantage of this is at. And also n8n, you do have to pay, but these three things are completely free, right? Like completely free. You can download Airflow, Dagster, and Prefect for free and just use it on your local system for free without issues. Now, the cons of this is that they're kind of difficult to set up. I'm not going to lie. This is why I'm not going to show you a walkthrough, because the walkthrough I'm going to show you probably is not going to be the same experience you're going to have on your PC. So if you're going to download these things, I highly recommend you use ChatGPT or Claude to just help you download it. How to install Apache Airflow, and then I'll probably say the kind of computer I have. I have a Windows 10. What kind of PC is? Oh, this is a built PC. And then you kind of just give it more information about what your PC is and stuff like that, and go through that process. And then any errors you get during the install process, copy paste that install into ChatGPT, and it'll help you walk through the process. That's my best way to tell you guys how to download this stuff, because it's really different per machine. Docker might work, but then if you don't have WSL updated, that's not going to work. And it's quite a bit of a journey sometimes to get these things installed. But I'm mentioning it because if you work for a company, they're probably going to have everything installed, working properly. You just have to integrate yourself into their system, learn how to use it, and all that jazz. So I highly recommend, if you're trying to get into AI engineering, or you want to work for giant companies that use these tools potentially, because a lot of giant companies like Facebook, Meta, Netflix, a lot of these giant companies, they have some type of orchestration workflow tools that they use. So keep that in mind. I highly recommend you know about these things and just kind of expose yourself to it. And if you're a business owner, probably if you're using n8n, maybe you could use these as well if you want more control. You want to make a workflow that has a feature that n8n is not including inside of it, right? So this is another use case potentially and a pro of it, right? So Each one is pretty much does the same thing. The main difference is that Dagster's setup is not a DAG system. I'm gonna explain what that is in a second. And they have a nice UI. Prefect has a pretty nice UI that is drag and drop, and they all have UIs for their thing as well. So don't think like it's all just coding. Like they have UIs that you can see what's going on. Like this is their UI, for example, that they're showing off right now. So let me explain what the heck is going on. I'm gonna just talk about like I just use Airflow as their main example because that's like the OG, like that's the original like workflow tool that existed. So pretty much these three tools, including n8n, do something called an ETL pipeline. n8n isn't really, the selling point is not being an ETL pipeline, but the other three are. An ETL pipeline is extract, transform, and load, right? This is a data engineering term. And if you're gonna, the thing about AI you need to understand is AI runs on data. AI is the oil for data if AI is the car, okay? So, and this is a basic overview, right? Sometimes the process is a lot deeper than this, but just to give you guys an exposure of how it works, right? So extract is pretty much when you're grabbing the data, like scraping, grabbing it, loading it, all that jazz. So most likely you're extracting from an Excel sheet, a database that you have, a data lake maybe, or a cloud service like AWS, Google Cloud Service, or Azure, right? This is where you get your data from. And this is stuff like maybe user data goes into there. Maybe you have an app like YouTube. Like YouTube probably loads their data onto one of these services, stuff like that. Client data might be on there, right? Form data, people fill out forms, might go on there. You need the form data, things like that. Then transform is when you modify that data to do whatever it is you need it to do, or you make it, you reshape it to look like how you want it to look, right? So that's like if you have a table, right? So imagine this table and you want to delete a column, boom, this will automatically delete that column without you having to manually go do that, right? So yeah, or let's say you want to modify the data type in this particular from like number to string or string to number. String just means like text, right? And number just means numbers, but numbers can be text too. Things like that, right? If you want to modify the data types of your column, you can do that automatically. If you want to delete certain data points, like maybe you want to delete anyone above a certain age, or you can filter for particular zip codes and areas of the data. That's what transform does. It does that automatically without manually you touching that. It just knows what to do. And then load. You probably would load this either into like I said, a cloud, a database, Excel sheet, a local folder file, whatever it is, right? Like it's wherever you want to load it into. And then from there, that's where your app or whatever you're using might use that information, right? Or even a dashboard. Maybe you load it into AWS, you open up in a Tableau dashboard potentially, or you load this data and then it's a client might see it or a user might see it, like my YouTube algorithm, right? Like a good example is like imagine when I'm watching videos, it's collecting data of what I just watched. It transforms that data in the back. I don't know what it looks like, and then it loads it back into their database, and then the database reflects by showing me the next videos that it's gonna recommend me, or videos that most likely matched the previous videos that I watched that it extracted from my history, transformed it so it can learn, and then from there it loads it back into their system, and the system that recommends videos to me that I might like based on what it grabbed, right? So that's like a basic flow of an ETL system. So these guys orchestrate that system. So the idea is that all they do is they are like the scheduler. Imagine pretty much they're the scheduler. So imagine this is a conveyor belt, right? This is just a machine. What these three tools will do, and it also does, but these are better at it in a sense for ETL pipelines, is that like let's say every day I want this to run. So now Apache Airflow will run this every single day, and it'll drop it every single day. You can tell it where to extract from. You can tell it how to transform, right, via Python files, and then you can tell it where to load, like where do you drop off the data that it finished changing, right? You can set all of that up, and it just orchestrates it. So it's like a timer. So let's say you want to do something once a week, right? It'll do it once a week. Or you want to do it like once every month. Like it schedules these tasks. Or let's say you need this task to happen before this task. It will set that up. It'll make sure like task A is done before task B, which is whatever that process is whatever that process is, right? So it keeps things in a proper order. So that's pretty much why you'll see things like it's a scheduler, monitor workflows, author just means create yourself, and things of that nature. So it's all about just, as you see, they accommodate a lot of different platforms. It's Snowflake, ChatGPT, There's Pythons, and this is a great example of what like a workflow looks like to them. So let me explain that what a DAG is. So a DAG is pretty much a graph, but a graph, you're probably thinking of like bar charts and line charts, or sorry, yeah, a line graph or whatever. DAGs are essentially a relationship graph, like visual. It's like a visual that shows you the relationship between different things. Okay, in this sense, it's the relationship in the order, in like the cycle of tasks, right? They need to get done for something. So like you saw, like this is like a very basic like DAG shape where it's like do this, then do this, right? Where it's like extract, transform, load. But it can also look like this, where it's like it'll extract data and it'll send it to two different things for something to happen, right? This might transform it differently than this one, and this will go to a particular client, and this will go to a different type of client, right? This could be just for your personal. This could be for customer facing app, right? You might have this kind of shape of a DAG system where it's like you extract from multiple places. You extract from their phone, from their TV, from their laptop. You transform it and you display it somewhere particular, right? Or you might have this kind of system as well. But you get the idea. There's kind of like no set shape that DAGs have. I just want you to kind of picture the idea like a process isn't just always going to be step one like A B C. It might be A and then B1 B2 and then C1 C2, right? So that's kind of like the idea you want to kind of get into your head about how DAGs work, right? Dynamic acyclic graphs. I think that's how it's saying. Acyclic just means it goes one way, which means it doesn't go back and forth. It just goes one direction, kind of like a river flow. Rivers don't go backwards; they go forward. And dynamic, changing, and then graph. Matter of fact, let me look at what it is. DAG. Well, no. Yeah, what does it stand for? Directed acyclic graph. There you go, folks. You know, it's so funny when you're working in the field for so long, you start forgetting what these acronyms actually stand for. But yes, all the graph is just a visual that you're seeing, which is it shows relationships. Directed means it goes one way or another way, and then acyclic means it doesn't go backwards. It only goes one particular way. Like it's not a constant loop or a cycle per se, right? But that's pretty much how that works. And then the reason why I'm also talking about this is because as a AI engineer, a data scientist, and stuff like that, you will come across this flow very often. And this is called ML ops or machine learning ops, which is a very high in demand skill right now in the market. So a lot of companies need this stuff because if you have an AI model that you're using for your app or something, or your clients are using it, or you provide services using AI automation tools and stuff like that, but you fine-tune your models. This is more if you're fine-tuning models. If you're using localized models or cloud models and you're fine-tuning them, which means you're training them on your data to make them specialized, things of that nature, this is the kind of flow you'll see very often. Now, if you're just running the models fresh out the box without doing fine tuning, this doesn't matter, right? Now, you don't got to worry about doing this. But if you're creating models you're from scratch, or you're fine tuning models, right? This is a flow that is very, very, very common. So, for example, you will grab user data, you will transform it, which is usually splitting the data into training and test sets and then validation sets, deleting data that doesn't matter. You might pivot the table, right? Which means you change the shape of the table from being long to flat and things of that nature, or yeah, long to flat, yeah. So, and then you might use QLoRa to do your fine tuning. You might fine tune a GPT model. You might fine tune a Mistral model. You might fine tune an Llama model. And then you'll save the model probably in an AWS S3 bucket or some type of cloud service or on your local folder on your local PC, right? Or wherever you want to save it, essentially. This is a very, very, very common flow, right? And this is really important to know. And the thing is, like, keep in mind, like, these are very common databases. So here's what an Amazon S3 bucket. So definitely check that out. It's one of the most used things for like storing files, storing data is an S3 bucket. And then databases like DBeaver is just a provider, but you can run like MySQL probably on it, PostgreSQL on it, things of that nature. This right here, where is this picture? I like this one picture it had. Yeah, this looks like a DAG itself. Right, but this is a graph. It's the relationship between the different tables in the data set, right? Or sorry, in the database. So there's different tables. So this is a really great tool. For example, MongoDB, if you want to have not structured data going up potentially, and things of that nature. So Yeah, but just to give you some insight, and like, and I'm talking about data, right? Like, this is data in itself that you might see, and you might want to modify it. Like, a transform could be like literally delete this column right here, might be a transform, or filtering it could be like, let me try to filter this, create a filter. I want to filter not by color, filter by, yeah, let's say I want to remove these values, hit OK. Now those values are gone, right? And things of that nature. So that's pretty much how they work and what you need to know about them. I highly suggest learning just the basic idea of how these automation tools work, because they're very popular and they're very useful if you have a lot of data and a lot of different processes going on in your company, and if you want more control of your system, right? Because n8n is limited on what it can do, but it can do a lot. n8n can do quite a bit, but it's limited if anything super new comes out, or you do something, if you're doing something very particular that no one else is doing, that n8n doesn't even know about, right? If it's not aware of what you're doing, it probably doesn't have it in its system. And of course, you know, if you have programmers, or if you're a programmer, then this is very easy for you to pick up as well. Like Airflow and all that stuff, and Prefect are very easy for you to pick up, since it codes in a Pythonic way, as shown here. Yeah, Python native orchestration. But yes, guys, so that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys would like to learn about AI, I'm here to help. If you want my help to integrate AI into your business, if you want to validate an AI idea, if you want to talk about anything AI related, I can teach a group, I can build something for you. Really depends on what you want. Email me in the description of this video below. I really appreciate you guys so much. Peace.